We're now starting to see the real-time fallout from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's decision to drop military flu vaccine mandates. A major flu outbreak hit Lackland Air Force Base in Texas, leaving more than 160 troops sick. According to the New York Times, the virus tore right through a basic training wing where trainees slept on bunk beds and eat at communal tables. Air Force officials say the outbreak is isolated to that one wing for now, and medical teams are on site monitoring the troops and handing out medication. Just weeks before this outbreak, Hegseth ended the military's flu vaccine mandate, arguing the universal requirement simply wasn't necessary for troops. Listen.
We're seizing this moment to discard any absurd, overreaching mandates that only weaken our warfighting capabilities. In this case, this includes the universal flu vaccine and the mandate behind it. The notion that a flu vaccine must be mandatory for every service member everywhere in every circumstance at all times is just overly broad and not rational.
Margaret Donovan is still with us. Okay, Margaret, so this strikes me as comical because his first line, talk about unnecessary mandates. If Hegseth is going to take a sledgehammer to unnecessary mandates in the military, whoa, he's got his real work cut out for him, because that's the whole point. You join the military, you have no autonomy over what you choose basically going forward from basic forward.
Yes, that is kind of like a foundational part of the military. There are a lot of rules that maybe shouldn't apply to you, but they do because you're in the military and you're wearing a uniform and you just follow them. So I think it's striking that he started that little soliloquy with about, making sure that we don't have weakness. Well, why don't you take a look at that basic training class and tell me about weakness? The timing of this is really striking. So he repeals the policy in April, sometime in mid-April, April 21st, I think. So this is probably the first basic training class to go through at Lackland since then. It is just so obvious, what the problem is. One fun fact that I wanted to share with all of you is that the Spanish flu, the origins are thought to have originated in Fort Riley, Kansas, back in 1918, for the exact same reasons that we see here. Military training positions are perfect breeding grounds for this, especially basic training. So you'll note, I think the New York Times article reported this, that Lackland has now reversed the policy, and there's an exception to the policy for basic training courses. Well, I've got news for you. That problem is going to persist, whether you're in a deployed environment, whether you're in any other field environment where you're training. I mean, it is like the dog that caught the car. You get it. You had no vaccines, and now you're out of basic training class.
What do you think this is about? I mean, is Hegseth just trying to kind of weigh in on the broader cultural war that Maha and this Trump administration has embarked upon with vaccines, and just trying to feed the base kind of some red meat?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right, because it's one irony of all of this is that he is fighting to uphold a transgender ban right now. And he is citing, actually, the ban was found unconstitutional recently by a D.C. Circuit Court, by an appellate court, because it was basically motivated by animus. But the administration has been trying to take almost like an alternative argument and say, well, actually, there are these medical reasons, and we're really concerned about medical readiness of the troops, and that's why we want to have this transgender ban. Well, look at what's happening, right? So you're just sort of adjusting your principles to whatever cultural point you're trying to make. Flu vaccines, you can say a lot about a lot of the stupid rules in the military. Flu vaccines are there for a reason, and you are looking at that exact reason at Lackland.
In addition to the transgender ban, there has also been a lot of effort from this DOD secretary to purge other people who do not fit his particular preferred demographic attributes. Mary Harris for Slate has laid out what she describes as some of the dumbest ways that Hegseth has been draining the military of its talent. Quote, Hegseth has called "our diversity is our strength" the single dumbest phrase in military history. He has declared Black History Month dead, and within days of taking charge at the Department of Defense in January 2025, he fired the military's highest-ranking Black officer, General Charles Q. Brown. A little more than a year later, more Black officers have been let go or simply walked off the job. Then there are the promotions that Hegseth has personally blocked, many of them minorities and women. What do you think this kind of action, this kind of messaging does to the military's ability to recruit, A, and retain talent, B?
So, first of all, everything that you just described, I have to say, and many others share this thought, this is a total abomination of what should be a meritocracy. That is unheard of, that the Secretary of Defense would reach down onto a promotion list and just by name remove people from that. These are officers who have done more in probably 1 year than Hegseth had in his entire military career. They've been doing all the right things to get to where they need to be. The combat deployments, the training, the qualifications, the command time. They have done everything they were supposed to do. And Hegseth looks back, the reporting is saying that he looks back at their history and finds if they ever said the word diversity in a public affairs speech or something and then takes them off of the list. So this is, it's really, I think, really disastrous for recruiting and retention. One tie back to this COVID vaccine policy, you'll notice in the New York Times reporting that Hegseth basically invited a bunch of people back. If you had been out processed for refusing the vaccine under the Biden administration, he was going to invite you back. He's had like 13 people come back under that, right? Whereas like thousands just decided to remain out. So the amount of people that you're losing is probably hard to quantify, the people who decide not to sign up because of this. But the message that he's sending to soldiers who should be on an equal playing field. The military is one of the most diverse organizations in the world, the U.S. military. And he is making soldiers feel like if they do something, they're going to be targeted for it later simply because of their race or their gender or anything else that makes them stand out. And so his erasure of history and of these really monumental accomplishments by women officers and soldiers, by minority officers and soldiers, this is just a huge disservice, and I think that it's going to take a very long time to regain the trust of the current force, but also of people who are thinking about joining.
Margaret Donovan, thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining us and always helping us make sense of it all. Thank you.